Welcome or welcome back. Today I'm going to be using my experience to explain how verbal abuse can shape your thoughts, shape your behavior, and eventually shape the kind of person that you actually become. I'm also going to be telling you what you can do to reverse this very negative impact that verbal abuse has. So let me say here that I'm not a mental health expert, neither am I a psychiatrist or psychologist, just someone who has experienced a lot of things I'm going to be talking about today. So let me start by sharing a little bit of my experience. Now, because I had been so belittled, so battered, so ridiculed, by words, I've been told so many times, that the things that I said did not make any sense. It's began to shape the thoughts that I have. So I remember on a particular day, I was going to put a call through to this person. And because I had been yelled off the phone many times, told to get off the phone and all of that, I decided to rehearse what I was going to say. So I spent a couple of minutes rehearsing what I was going to say, turning it left and right just to be sure that what I was going to say would make some sense. And after I was done with my rehearsals, I braced myself up and put the call through. And I said everything that I had rehearsed, perfectly. And then the first thing this person said to me was, "Do you even think at all? Get off my phone." But what was, the most painful part of that experience, or the saddest part of that experience, was that after that conversation, I actually sat down and began to look through the things I had said to find out if what I had said was really dumb. It was like I was pondering it, like, oh, maybe this person is actually right. Maybe what I had said was really very dumb. And the truth about verbal abuse is that it alters your perception of yourself. When somebody repeatedly says something to you, when someone repeatedly belittles you and ridicules you, regardless of how tough you think you are, regardless of how strong of a person you think you are, at some point it's going to begin to shape your thoughts. It's going to begin to shape your perspective on who you are, your outlook to life. And unfortunately, because verbal abuse is something that is negative, you are going to begin to have negative thoughts about yourself, negative thoughts about your abilities. I remember that I began to get to a point where I always thought that everything I did was going to fail, because I felt I didn't have the capabilities to do anything right. Now, the problem is that it does not just shape your thoughts, it begins to shape your behavior, your character. You begin to act out those things that have been said. In other words, what I'm saying here is that verbal abuse actually gets to a point where you begin to act like the words that you have been called. So if you've repeatedly been called a dull person without your knowing it, just little by little, you actually get to a point when you become the things that your abuser has called you. Now, you're probably familiar with Emoton. He's the water researcher, his experiment where he puts water in containers and freezes them for 24 hours. And then for some containers with water in it, he puts negative sounds or negative words. And then for another batch, he puts positive words like "I love you." And you see that the water that has the positive words, the kindness, the love, crystallizes and forms a very beautiful crystal. But the words that have negative things attached to them, the containers rather, that have negative words attached to them, negative words spoken to them, they don't even actually freeze. They're just like a clump. They end up forming some sort of clump, something really ugly. In other words, the water actually responds to the words that have been spoken to them. Apart from water, I know people have also done this particular experiment on plants as well. I know that a couple of years ago, IKEA did something similar, and they put two plants in a school and told people to record their, positive words for one and negative for the other. And you see that in the same way, the words that kept getting, kind words and loving words was blooming, was flourishing. And the one that kept getting negative feedback was actually withering away. This is what someone does to you. What they're essentially doing is that they're speaking words into you that are altering the course of your life. They're saying things that are making you sort of wither away. You slowly become that person that they are describing with their negative words. And I said earlier that it doesn't matter how strong-willed you are. There's something called the illusion of truth, and he talks about how When someone continues to repeat something, even if it is a lie, you begin to believe that is the truth. And in continuing my own story, I remember that I got to a point where I actually believed I was cursed. I literally used to walk around believing that I had a serious curse on me, because everything I thought about myself was negative because of the amount of negativity that I have drawn in from this person's negative words. It's like someone pouring poison. It's going to affect you one way or the other. So I'm going to be telling you what to do so that you can reverse this effect, so that you don't become the negative words that the abuser has said that you are. Now, before I say that, I want to quickly complete my testimony, or story if you like. And so I remember that I was walking about believing that I was genuinely cursed, believing that there was something extremely negative, wrong with me. And a few days before my birthday, I began to pray and tell God that he needed to change my name. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. And a day before my birthday, I remember God telling me to check the meaning of my surname. It was strange because I'm from Rivers State. I didn't think I'll ever find the meaning of my surname on the internet for whatever reason. I just thought it had one deep reverse meaning that I won't be able to find online. But I obeyed and I checked. And the first thing that showed up on my search bar was blessed. In other words, God had gone ahead of me. He knew that I was going to get to a point in my life where I was going to desperately need that name. And he had gone ahead to give me the name in advance. Now, how I even got that surname is a long story that I'm not going to get into today. But for the first time, I realized how much God loves me. How he was so thoughtful of me that he knew that I was going to get to the end of the road. And at that point, I was at the end of the road. I'd gotten to a point where I had no interest in living anymore. I'd gotten to the end of the road. There was nothing, there was no ray of hope. There was absolutely nothing for me to look forward to. Abuse can lead you to that point. And I did get to that point, and God, in his mercy and his love, had already prepared a good and beautiful name for me. Now, why am I sharing this testimony? Just to tell you that if you are in that situation, or if you're in any kind of situation where you feel hopeless and things seem to have, gone on bad for too long, and you feel like there's no hope, there's nothing that can be done, I want you to know that just in the same way that God had a great plan ahead for me, and the way that he was that mindful of me and that thoughtful about my life, in the same way he's also as thoughtful about your life, about the plans that he has for you. And if you will just give him a chance to show you the depth of his love, to show you how much he really cares about you, I can tell you that he's going to transform your life and make your life extremely better. I mean, I'm standing here today and I can actually smile. This is something that there was a time that I could not even do, because for me there was nothing to smile about. And so if you have not, asked God to genuinely show you his love, and you can do that just by talking to him wherever you are and telling Jesus that you want him to become a part of your life. And I can tell you for free that you're never going to regret that decision. Now, let's quickly go on to what you can do to reverse this negative impact, this negative effect on your life. So, as I told you earlier, I found the meaning of my name, and then God began to show me how I had allowed somebody else use their words to shape my life, use their words to shape my reality. And so the first assignment that he gave me, which is something I'm urging you to do, was I had to speak positive words over myself for at least 30 days. That was the starting point. Now, it was difficult for me because I didn't even know what to say. I was like, positive words, where am I going to get positive words from? I had no idea what I was going to say. So some days I'll say one thing, the next day I won't even bother. But even though I struggled through the 30 days, after a while I got better. So I'm not saying that after 30 days you should stop, but I will say start by saying something positive to yourself. The reason you are doing that is because you are trying to negate those words which are seeds, because words are actually seeds, right? You're trying to negate the words that somebody else has said, so that your life does not respond to those negative things, you have to give it something positive to live on, something positive to respond to. And because the words are coming from your own mouth, it has more power than the words that any other person can speak over you. Your own words have the most power over you. So to reverse that evil effect, okay, that somebody else has caused in your life, you need to begin to speak positive words over yourself. If you're a Christian, I'll urge you to speak the word of God. That's the most powerful set of words, if you ask me. Yes, so there are many scriptures that talk about positive things that God has in plan for you, and it's important that you begin to speak those things. Now, I know that there are people who think verbal abuse is not that deep, it's not that important, but the reason I've done this video today is to show you that it is extremely important. It's beyond, it actually even goes beyond your health, which is something very important that I might talk about in a future video. But the fact that you become those negative things, that's like the worst thing that you could experience, that somebody else is determining the person that you become and determining and shaping it in a negative way. Please don't let anybody do that to you. If you are in a situation where you are unable to leave the abuser, then what you should do, what I suggest you do, is not to confront the abuser. Please do not confront. The reason why I say do not confront is because sometimes it can make the abuse escalate to something even worse, which could be physical abuse. So do not confront, okay, as much as possible, because it might not be safe. But as soon as you're able to leave that space, even if for a few seconds, immediately reverse those negative words by imputing into yourself positive words. Immediately, as soon as you are able to, don't let it linger for so long. As soon as you are able to step away from that particular person, begin to speak to yourself the positive words, because the power to shape your life should be in your own hands, not in the hands of someone else. Don't subject yourself to someone's bitterness, someone's anger and all of that. Take charge of your life. And if you do decide to leave, I hope that you find strength to leave whoever is pouring poison if you like, or venom into you. If you do decide to leave, I hope that you find the strength and the courage to do so. I hope this video was helpful. I did a video where I spoke about how to tell the signs of verbal abuse, how you can tell if you're being verbally abused. That video is going to be coming up on your screen in a couple of seconds. And if you've seen that already, right beside it, there's another video that I'm sure you're going to like. Yeah, please let me know if this was helpful to you in the comment section. And yeah, please don't forget to like. And if you've not subscribed yet and you like this content, please do so. I really love to have you as a part of this community. Goodbye.